Hello everyone, welcome to part 5 of the SHMUP Stravaganza. We're going to be starting out with R-Type from 1987, a fantastic arcade shmup. It's made by none other than Irem. I've been a tremendous fan of this game ever since I first got it on my Sega Master System many a Christmas ago, along with Space Harrier, Shinobi, Fantasy Zone, and Outrun. Speaking of Space Harrier, Fantasy Zone, and Shinobi, they were also on the NES, but they were done by a third party. It was absolutely horrifying to see how terrible of ports they were in comparison to the much, much better Sega Master System versions. So let's get the show on the road. Arguably one of the best shmups ever made. We need a little bit of je ne sais quoi. Stand push mode activate. It's alright. They don't fight. Take them out. We've got all night. Now what if I want to be able to do a little bit of drumming here? And there's so much on-screen frenetic action going on that it's going to be a little bit difficult to get away from the TV screen and drum. So what I'm going to do is go into the MAME options here. And instead of doing cheats, which I would typically do, I'm going to go to dip switches and enable invulnerability. And then I'm going to reset the game. Yeah, check out the dip switches. There's some incredibly cool effects that you could use alternatively to the typical cheats that you'd be using. But let's try this out, and I'm going to do a little bit of drumming before we get to the rest of the video. And I have to say I've never drummed to this yet, but I'm going to do it for the sake of entertainment, so bear with me. Gotta find my tune, gotta find my entry point, my cue. That doesn't sound quite like the beat I'm looking for. It sounds a little bit too more of a rock or a metal beat. I need something more along the lines of a techno infusement here. So let's see if I can find the proper sample set to get more or less into a bridge or cue or entry point and get right back into the action here. Here we go. Time to move on to another game here. And I have to say that was my very first time trying to drum to it, so it wasn't a complete success nor a complete failure, but I'll be doing more drumming in the future, of course. So thanks to all of you for supporting my crazy drumming and my crazy singing antics. But we're going to move on to another shmup game here. Let's see what we have here. We have Run and Gun. Sounds like the best title for a shmup ever. Let's check this out. Wait a second. I saw the cover art. I don't think this is really a shmup. I might have fooled myself here, but we're going to check this incredible game out anyway. It is going to be in the compatibility upgrade in my next update. It's a fantastic basketball game, very similar to NCAA that was on the original Super Nintendo Super Famicom. This game previously had issues with the NVRAM. And markwkidd did a tremendous job getting this working, and you're going to see this in action right now. And it will be in the next update. Best name for a shmup ever, but not quite a shmup. But you'll be playing this on MAME 2003 Extreme in the next update. Really cool game. It reminds me quite a bit of NCAA, the Mode 7 game, which was on the Super Nintendo. Really digging this game, but it's not quite a shmup. It just has the best name for a shmup ever, Run and Gun. Let's move on to another game here. We had quite a few more to cover throughout the course of this video. We're going to play Salamander II from 1996, a great Konami game. And this is a game that you're going to need the Konami GX BIOS for. You can just simply copy them into the game directory and you'll be able to load the game. This and one other game in this video require these BIOS. So again, Salamander II needs the Konami GX zip BIOS and just copy it into the game directory. Incredible game with an amazing soundtrack, and truly, truly fulfills the legacy of the Life Force series. Salamander II is technically Life Force 2. I'm digging the soundtrack here. Really, really upbeat music. Konami was always awesome with their soundtracks. I mean, Life Force on NES, you just can't beat it. If you want to play another version of Life Force that is incredibly awesome, try out the TurboGrafx 16 version. It has better graphics and it has automatic power-ups, which makes it kind of interesting to play as an alternative to the original Life Force that you're accustomed to on the NES. Really, really cool graphics. It has a pseudo 3D effect. I'm really digging this. But Salamander II, and of course, like many of these Gradius and Life Force games, once you're nicely powered up and you die, you kind of have to start from scratch, and it sucks if you're on the boss. See, I'm back to scratch here. But we got many more games to cover here. We'll try another Konami game that also requires the Konami GX BIOS. How about Sexy Proteus? So yes, both this and Salamander II require the Konami GX BIOS. And I'd recommend copying them directly into the game directory rather than the system directory with the Master BIOS module. It works better for some games, such as Neo Geo and Konami games like this, just to copy them into the actual game directory. Or you can merge them per my Neo Geo merge BIOS video. But this is an incredibly awesome parody of the Gradius series made by the same company that made Gradius. You get to see some crazy hijinks that you get throughout the course of this game. And I could have picked other vehicles, but I ended up picking the Vic Viper from Gradius. But not your everyday Gradius. This is definitely more along the lines of a Twin Bee. They call this a cute shmup. There's a whole genre of shmups called cute shmups. I mean, listen to this music. And wait till you see some of the bosses that transpire throughout the course of this game. You can experience it for yourself. Again, this is Sexy Proteus. You need a little bit of sexiness to your shmup game. And it is a two-player shmup to boot. We'll get to the first boss here. It's been a little bit of time since I played this, but some of these bosses are very, very similar to the bosses that you'd expect to see in the game like Fantasy Zone by Sega. This is really cool how the enemies are all getting bigger and bigger as you shoot them. I've seen this effect in a few other games throughout history. But we should be nearing our first boss here. It's playing fantastic on MAME 2003. Not a hint of slowdown whatsoever. Sometimes slowdown is an asset in a game like this because in a game like Gradius 3 on Super Nintendo, the slowdown helps you navigate the terrain and take out enemies even more easily. I feel like I'm approaching the boss here. And let's see what kind of boss we're going to get here. Here we go. Oh no, a crazy corn on the cob. But this is Sexy Proteus, and we have a few more games to move on to here. And I always love these two-player shmup games. Oh, we're going to play Soul Divide, the Sword of Darkness. And this is a very, very, very interesting gimmick as far as the shmup is concerned. It has a little bit of the SD Gundam style to it. And this one I'm running with Final Burn Alpha 2012. Everything else thus far I'm running with MAME 2003. But let's check this incredible game out. made by Sakio, and they've done a few other games that I've shown in my other videos. Really, really awesome graphics here. Reminds me of the Crystal Dragon style graphics. Really digging the presentation here. It's like Infector X done right. Not only can I shoot, but I have a weapon attached just like an SD Gundam, which is really, really cool. Really, really fun game here. And there are actually a few other games out there in the arcade shmup market that are like this. I'll play a few of them in other videos, but this is one of them for now. And we're moving on to another game, but that was Soul Divide. Really awesome game. I'd recommend running it with Final Burn Alpha 2012. What else do we have as far as arcade games are concerned here? We have Sera from 2000. And there are 2 Sera games. I'm running the first one in the series right now. If you've been wondering what my favorite shmup of all time is, I'm going to show you it in this video. So we're trying out Sera right now on May 2003. Really, really cool. Reminds me quite a bit of Guwanch, the Japanese feudal style genre niche here. Not bad at all. Really digging this. Really, really well done. Again, this reminds me quite a bit of Guwanch, which I've done in one of my previous SHMUP Stravaganza videos. But let's try another game here. That was Sera. Like I said, there are Sera 1 and Sera 2, so definitely check them both out, but that was part 1. We're going to try out another arcade game here. We'll try out Mars Matrix, and yes, some of these arcade games have been on the Sega Dreamcast. So you get not only can you play like CPS3 games, which I've done in one of my previous videos, you can play them on Final Burn Alpha 2012. Those are the closest thing you can get to running Dreamcast right now. But this is one of the games that has also been on the Dreamcast. And it really, really does have the typical presentation you'd expect from a Dreamcast game. And it's running fantastic with Final Burn Alpha 2012. I mean, look at this. I feel like I'm playing Dreamcast all over again there. You've had your NES or SNES Classic all this time. How many of you did not know that you could run a Dreamcast game like this on your arcade core? How awesome is this? It has a really, really cool score system. But when I had my Dreamcast, this is one of my favorite games on the Dreamcast. Of course, my favorite game on the Dreamcast was Phantasy Star Online V2. I played that quite a bit. But Zombie Revenge, Trick Style, I mean, I could go on and on with so many awesome games on my Dreamcast. Hydro Thunder, of course Soul Calibur. I can't think of a single Dreamcast game that I didn't love. I mean, it was a great system and it got overshadowed by the PS2, obviously. And I didn't quit the game properly. Every once in a while the memory freezes up And there are two different ways you could do it. One, you could shut down and turn the system back on, which I'm going to do. And I'll show you the other way once I get the system booted back up. But every once in a while, you can have a little bit of a memory leak and end up getting a C8 when you try quitting the game. But like I said, you could just turn the system back on. But I'm going to show you the alternate way to quit if you end up having it happen on the various core or certain game. But we're going to try out another game that was also on the Dreamcast called Gigawing. And I'm going to show you the special way of quitting if you ever do get a C8 error again. I've done this in a couple other videos. But it is an instant way of doing a pseudo control alt delete, clearing the memory and getting out of dodge. Here we're playing Gigawing. Gigawing and Mars Matrix are both CPS2 games, so you're going to want to have the QSound zip BIOS installed as well, and they install just fine with the Master BIOS module in the system folder, and you can also copy them into the game directory, but they work fine in the Master BIOS module. But this is Gigawing, yet another really cool Dreamcast game, and I'm running this on MAME 2003. Really fun game here. So you're going to have a whole fun weekend of trying out more of these SHMUP Stravaganza games. Really well done here. Now what I'm going to do is show you my alternate way of quitting. I go to load core. And I load one of two cores. I load 2048 or Mr. Boom. And once I load the core, I start it. And that clears the memory completely. And this works fantastically, awesomely well for getting out of the PSP games with the PPSS PP core. But once you're in the core, you can simply quit RetroArch and you will not get your C8 error if you tend to get it on a various core or a game. And there are a few DOSBox games that might give you a C8 error when you try quitting RetroArch. Due to a little bit of a memory leak, just use 2048 or Mr. Boom as your way of escaping these. We're going to try out a very early but really cool shmup called Juno first from 1983. There was actually a game on the Atari 2600 and ColecoVision that was quite a bit like this, and I'm going to load it right after this so you can see a little bit of a comparison. But early Konami game. Really cool vector graphic style game. I love my vector games. Tron, this, Star Wars, Star Trek, so many mini vector games. Of course, Red Baron, I mean there's just quite a few of them. And I have the Atari Flashback Volume 1 and 2 on my PS4, and they have quite a few vector games for Atari on there. And Tempest is one of my favorites, which I've showed in the previous video. But the other game that's quite a bit like this is called Beam Rider, which is on the Atari 2600 and the ColecoVision. We're going to try out the Atari 2600 version right now. Right here, Beam Rider. And I used to love this game when I had it back in the day. Early Activision game. Before you had to pay microtransactions. There's the same general concept as Juno first. One thing that these Atari 2600 games, ColecoVision and television games always have in common is that they never get old. They have really a great competitive nature as far as the score is concerned. You would play and see how high of a score you could get, and then you could play against a friend and let them see how high of a score they could get. One of the very first Atari 2600 games I ever had was called Target Fun on the Sears Telegames, and it was a tremendous two-player game where you basically took out various objects and tried to see who had the highest score afterwards. It was such a fun game back in the day. But it was called Target Fun, and I believe it got an alternate name when it finally got released on the Atari 2600. Right now we're playing DYMA, another CPS2 game. And I'm going to go into video settings right here. And I'm going to disable integer right now. Again, it is on by default, but disable it where applicable if you need to. Another fantastic CPS2 game. One of the very best in the CPS2 lineup, along with Pro Gear. Really digging this one. Fun game. Not really well known because it has such an unobtrusive name. Just not a name you would really remember as far as SHMUPs. I mean, R-Type is easy to remember. Gradius is easy to remember. But a game like DYMA, not really so much. I'm going to go back into video settings and re-enable the integer scale. Because there's another way that you could work with it with the bezels, which I'm going to show you when I load another game here. I'm going to go into my Canoe borders right now and pick a galaxy border for my next game. Display. I'll have it on CRT filter, and I'll load a galaxy border, which is my favorite. If I hold down the L1 button as I load a game, I'll be able to enable the Canoe border for this individual game, and if I hold R1 down, it'll toggle it on and off globally for all games. But right now I'm holding down L1 just for this specific game. And this is a great coding edition done by BS Leno. Awesome, and I absolutely love it. But we should get a Canoe border here. I'm holding down the L1 button as I load. And this is called Bezel mode. So we should be in game here in a moment. And some games, depending on what size they are, take a little bit longer to load. Especially some of the custom OST games. But here we go. Canoe border should pop up here in a second. And I think I need to check my flash drive because I've been yanking it a little bit more than I should have. Okay, we had a little bit of an issue loading that game, so I'm going to come back to it. We'll consider that a fail for right now. Can't always win. We'll load Star Trek from 1982. And I have been messing around with the rewind feature. You're gonna want to make sure some features are not enabled when you load certain games, otherwise the games could fail on you. And I had rewind enabled, that's why it disabled Dragon Blaze from loading. But I'll show you the Canoe border on another game. Very interesting game here, another vector game. The game that previously did not work until just a couple updates ago. I love every vector game that I'm coming across. They're all really cool to play. And I can go in a warp drive too. I get docked for more fuel and missiles and such, and shield power and photon torpedo. But this is Star Trek, not a bad game at all. We're going to do the Canoe border for another game here, since I failed on the other game I tried to load. I'm going to make sure I have the Canoe border on there. And we're going to load a game for another system here. We'll load Pulstar for Neo Geo, and I'm going to hold down L1 as I load it, and we should get the Canoe border properly this time. Wait for it. Wait for it. Canoe Board should be active. Here we go. Anyways, when I was messing around with Rewind, I had to go into frame throttle, rewind, and I had it on. But what you want to do is have it disabled, because if you have it on, it can make some games not load and other games run slow. So I'm going to go over, I did a rewind video that shows this, but we're going to get back to this right now. That's the reason why my Dragon Blaze didn't load, because it was enabled. But this is Pulstar, a fantastic Neo Geo game, running via May 2003. Again, I never edited my videos, so when you see something fail, you get to see me troubleshoot it on the spot. And the cause of Dragon Blaze failing was the fact that I was messing around with the rewind on other cores. But this is one of the best Neo Geo games, and it's typically one of the harder ones to run. If you have trouble running it, try running it on May 2010, as that is the other core that it will run on just fine. There's a very, very interesting jazz style soundtrack, which many shmups from Japan typically have. A little bit of a jazz fusion going on here. Definitely one of my favorite Neo Geo games. And there are quite a few shmups on Neo Geo, without a doubt. But this is Pulstar. We have a few more games to cover throughout the rest of this video. We're going to get onto a great TurboGrafx CD game. One that I can't fully show you because it is not safe for work if I go too far into the game, but I'll explain as I play it. What I'm going to show you is safe, but you'll see in a moment here. It's called Steam Hearts. And this game is also on the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn version is horribly censored, but this version right here is not censored. It was also not released in the United States, but basically some adult-themed action occurs at the end of each stage. And I'm actually going to use the save state so I can skip past the long, talky intro. I'll load a save state to get into the game. But once you beat each level, a little bit of an anime, adult-themed thing occurs, and you'll see for yourself when you try it out. But this is a great shmup otherwise, just with an adult theme to it. But if you want to play something quite a bit different, and get a little bit of a laugh, just play this and try to get to the end of the first stage, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll definitely make you go, WTF, what is going on here? A little bit of 50 Shades of Shmup Gray going on here. But definitely a cool game for what it's worth. And this was going to be the last one in the series, but I've gotten so much feedback that I'm definitely going to do a part 6. Now I'm going to show you probably the second best shmup on the TurboGrafx CD, next to Sapphire. This one is called Psychic Storm, and this really takes advantage of the arcade card. But without a doubt, Sapphire is probably the best shmup on here, and this is the second best shmup, and this is incredibly awesome. It has special effects in it that require a special arcade card to run if you have the Turbo Duo. But absolutely impeccable soundtrack here, one of the best soundtracks. You'll see for yourself here. But it has a really cool transform mode, which you'll see in action. And Sapphire also required the arcade card. I transformed just a little bit early because I pushed the wrong button. But I absolutely love the soundtrack. It reminds me quite a bit of the style of music that was in my Outrun Test 2 video done by Sunset Neon tonight. This is such a song that they'd be able to sing for sure. This game demands some lyrics to it, Stan Bush style. I just don't have them figured out yet. transform again. Really, really cool game. Great soundtrack. Great graphics. I think this was out roughly around the same time as the Sega Genesis. Definitely way ahead of its time, just like the Sega CD was. This is Psychic Storm on the TurboGrafx CD, aka PCE CD. We're going to try out Omega Boost, which is a great shmup that I love on the PS1. And if you like games like Star Fox, you'll be right at home with this game. Definitely one of my underrated gems of a shmup game. Despite it being a Sony title, it really wasn't that well known, unfortunately, but it is an awesome game.
Select the primary target to portrait.
If you like games like Gamera 2000, which I did in my other video, you'll love a game like this. Really fun game. Quite a bit like Galaxy Force 2, a little bit of Star Fox. And it has your typical Panzer Dragoon targeting system. And Ray Force style and Ray Crisis style, where you can hold down the attack button and target all the enemies in succession. And then release your attack button and just let out a barrage of missiles, which is really awesome. Like that. It's really awesome there. This has always been one of my favorite go-to quick pick-me-up PS1